The Girl in the Green Hood, a modern retelling, Part 1. The journey begins in a bustling city where glass towers scraped the clouds and the streets hummed with endless traffic. There lived a young woman named Maya. She was 23 years old, fresh out of college, and working her first real job at a nonprofit that helped elderly people stay connected with their communities. Maya was known among her friends and coworkers for one distinctive thing. She always wore a green hooded jacket, a vintage piece she'd found at a thrift store during her freshman year. The deep forest green had faded slightly over the years, but she loved it fiercely. It made her feel brave somehow, like she was carrying a piece of wilderness with her through the concrete jungle. Maya lived in a cramped studio apartment in the northern part of the city, while her grandmother, Nana Rose, lived alone in a small house on the southern edge, where the city began to dissolve into scraggly woods and forgotten neighborhoods. Nana Rose had raised Maya after her parents died in a car accident when she was 7. The old woman had been Maya's everything: her parent, her teacher, her best friend. Now that Maya was grown and busy with her own life, she made a point to visit Nana Rose at least twice a week, bringing groceries, helping with bills, and just sitting with her, listening to the same stories she'd heard 100 times before. Thursday morning in late autumn, Maya's phone buzzed during her lunch break. It was a text from Mrs. Chen, Nana Rose's neighbor. "Your grandmother has caught a bad cold. She's asking for you. Could you stop by today?" Maya's heart clenched with worry. Nana Rose was 84 now, and every cold felt like it could turn into something worse. She texted back immediately, "I'll come right after work. Can you check on her until then?" The afternoon dragged interminably. Maya watched the clock on her computer screen, counting down the minutes until 5 o'clock. She thought about her grandmother alone in that little house, probably refusing to rest properly, probably trying to make herself tea and soup when she should be in bed. When the workday finally ended, Maya grabbed her green jacket from the back of her chair, pulled the hood up over her dark curls, and headed out. She stopped at a pharmacy first, picking up cold medicine, throat lozenges, tissues, and a jar of the special honey Nana Rose liked in her tea. Then she went to the small grocery store on the corner, the Korean one where the produce was always fresh, and bought ingredients for chicken soup: chicken, carrots, onions, garlic, and fresh ginger. The bags were heavy, but Maya was used to carrying things. She slung them over her shoulders and made her way to the subway station. The subway platform was crowded with the evening rush. Maya squeezed into a train, wedging herself between a man in a business suit who kept jabbing at his phone and a teenager with headphones, blasting music so loud she could hear every word. The train lurched forward, and Maya gripped the pole, thinking about the route ahead. She'd take this train to the end of the line, then catch a bus that would drop her 3 blocks from Nana Rose's house. Door to door. The journey would take about an hour and 15 minutes, if everything ran on time. As the train rattled through the tunnels beneath the city, Maya found herself studying the other passengers. There was something about the subway that made everyone equal for a moment. The executive and the student, the nurse in scrubs and the construction worker in dusty boots, all pressed together, all headed somewhere. She wondered about their stories, where they were going, who was waiting for them. The train emerged above ground as it reached the outer boroughs. Through the scratched windows, Maya could see the city changing. The tall buildings gave way to shorter ones, then to neighborhoods of modest houses with tiny yards. Trees appeared, their branches now mostly bare, scattered leaves still clinging stubbornly to a few. The autumn sun was already sinking low, casting everything in a golden-orange light that would soon fade to dusk. At the end of the line, Maya climbed the stairs from the platform to street level. The bus stop was right there, but according to the digital sign, the next bus wouldn't arrive for 18 minutes. Maya checked her phone. It was already 6:47 p.m. If she waited for the bus, she wouldn't get to Nana Rose's house until after 8 o'clock. She pulled up a map on her phone and studied it carefully. There was a walking route. If she cut through Riverside Park and followed the old trail that ran along the creek, she could reach Nana Rose's neighborhood in about 40 minutes. The path would save her time, and honestly, Maya thought, walk might do her good. She'd been cooped up in the office all day, breathing recycled air under fluorescent lights. The idea of stretching her legs and getting some fresh air, even in the chilly autumn evening, was appealing. Maya adjusted the bags on her shoulders, pulled her green hood a bit tighter around her face, and set off toward the park entrance. Part 2. Into the woods, Riverside Park had once been a showpiece of urban planning, with manicured lawns, playgrounds, and paved paths where families would picnic and children would play. But that was decades ago. Funding had dried up, maintenance had slipped, and gradually the park had fallen into a kind of beautiful neglect. Nature had begun to reclaim it. The grass grew wild and tall. The playgrounds rusted, and the trees spread their branches wider each year, creating thick canopies that blocked out the city noise and light. The main entrance to the park still had its old stone pillars, though the iron gates had long since been removed, probably stolen for scrap metal. Maya walked between the pillars and onto the cracked asphalt path. She'd been through this park before, though not recently, and certainly never this late in the day. The sun was sinking fast now, and the shadows under the trees were growing deeper and darker. The path followed the creek, really just a narrow stream that was often more trash than water, for about a quarter-mile before splitting. One branch stayed close to the creek and would eventually take her to the residential streets beyond. The other curved away into the denser part of the park. Maya kept to the creek path, walking briskly. The grocery bags knocked against her hip with each step, and she could feel the cold medicine box pressing through the plastic. The park was quiet except for the sound of wind rustling through the remaining leaves and the occasional distant honk of a car horn from the streets beyond. Found the quiet soothing at first. After the noise and crush of the subway, the solitude felt like a gift. She breathed deeply, smelling earth and decaying leaves, and that particular autumn scent of things ending and preparing for winter. She'd been walking for about 10 minutes when she heard footsteps behind her. Maya's first instinct was relief. She wasn't completely alone out here after all. But something made her glance over her shoulder, and what she saw made her grip on her grocery bags tighten. A man was walking about 30 feet behind her, his hands shoved deep in the pockets of a heavy jacket. He was large, tall and broad-shouldered, with a thick beard and a bulky build that reminded Maya of a bear. There was something in his posture, in the way he walked, that immediately set off alarms in her mind. He wasn't just walking in the same direction. He was following her pace, matching her speed. Maya told herself she was being paranoid. This was a public park. He had every right to be here. He was probably just someone else taking a shortcut, headed to the same neighborhood she was. She faced forward again and kept walking, but she couldn't shake the awareness of him behind her. She could hear his footsteps crunching on the gravel path, steady and persistent. She walked a little faster. The footsteps behind her quickened to match. Maya's heart began to pound. She thought about the self-defense class she'd taken in college, the instructor's advice echoing in her memory. Trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Don't worry about being polite. The path ahead curved to the right, following the creek. Maya knew that around that curve, there was a small wooden bridge that crossed the water. Once she crossed the bridge, she'd be only about 15 minutes from the edge of the park, where there would be streetlights and houses and people. She just needed to keep moving. But before she reached the curve, a voice called out from behind her. "Hey! Wait up!" Maya didn't stop. She didn't turn around. She gripped her bags tighter and walked faster, almost jogging now. "Hey, I'm talking to you!" The voice was louder now, with an edge that confirmed all of Maya's fears. She broke into a run. The grocery bags swung wildly, the chicken and vegetables thumping against her side, but she didn't care. Behind her, she heard the man's footsteps change from a walk to a heavy run. He was chasing her now, not even pretending otherwise. Terror flooded Maya's body with adrenaline. The path ahead seemed to stretch impossibly long. The bridge was there, just ahead, but the man was gaining on her. She could hear his breathing, ragged and harsh, and the pounding of his boots on the path. "Stop running," he shouted. "I just want to talk to you." But Maya knew better. Women always knew better. She knew that men who just wanted to talk didn't chase you through abandoned parks at dusk. She knew that predators always started with words before moving to actions. She knew this in her bones, in the cellular memory of every woman who had ever been hunted. She hit the wooden bridge at full sprint, her boots hammering on the old planks. The bridge was maybe 20 feet long, spanning the narrow creek. Halfway across, Maya's foot caught on a broken board. She stumbled, and one of her grocery bags tore. Vegetables spilled across the bridge, carrots rolling, an onion bouncing and disappearing over the edge into the water below. The man was on the bridge now, his footsteps making the whole structure shake. Maya abandoned the spilled groceries and kept running. But the momentary stumble had cost her precious seconds. She could feel him right behind her, could almost feel his breath on her neck. Just as she reached the end of the bridge, just as his hand was reaching out to grab the back of her green jacket, there was a loud caresse, and the man yelped in pain and surprise. Maya spun around, gasping for breath, and saw the man clutching his shoulder. Standing at the other end of the bridge, having just emerged from the trees along the side path, was a park ranger. Part 3. The ranger was a woman in her mid-40s, tall and lean, wearing the official Park Service uniform and carrying a walking stick that she'd apparently just used to strike Maya's pursuer. Her hair was pulled back in a gray, streaked ponytail, and her face was angular and stern. "Back off," the ranger said, her voice carrying complete authority. She held her walking stick ready, like a weapon. The bearded man took a step back, his hand still on his shoulder. "What the hell, lady?" You can't just hit people. This is a state park, and I'm authorized to use necessary force to protect visitors from harassment and assault. The ranger replied calmly. And I saw exactly what was happening here. You were chasing this young woman. That's assault. I wasn't. I was just... The man sputtered. You need to leave this park immediately, or I'm calling the police. The ranger pulled a radio from her belt. Your choice. Walk away now. Explain yourself to the officers. For a long moment, the man stood there, his face flushed with anger and something else. Maybe embarrassment or fear of consequences. He glared at Maya, then at the ranger. Finally, he spat on the ground and turned away, stomping back across the bridge the way he'd come. The ranger kept the radio in her hand, watching him until he disappeared around the curve in the path. Only then did she lower her walking stick and turn to Maya. Are you hurt? She asked, her stern expression softening slightly. Maya shook her head. She was trembling now, the adrenaline leaving her body in shaky waves. No, I'm okay. Thank you. God, thank you so much. What are you doing in the park this late? The ranger asked. We close at sunset. I didn't know, Maya said. She realized now she probably should have known. I was taking a shortcut to my grandmother's house. She's sick. I wanted to get there quickly. The ranger looked at the remaining grocery bag, Maya still clutched, at the spilled vegetables on the bridge behind them, and her expression softened further. Where does your grandmother live? Maple Street, 47. On the south side of the park? The ranger nodded slowly. That's still a good walk from here, even with the shortcut. And it's getting dark fast. She looked up at the sky, which had deepened from orange to purple. Tell you what. I need to do a final sweep of this section of the park anyway. Make sure that guy actually left. I'll walk with you to the edge. Make sure you get out safely. Relief washed over Maya. Really? You don't have to do that. It's part of my job, the ranger said with a slight smile. Besides, I can't in good conscience let you walk through here alone after what just happened. Come on, let's get your groceries first. Together. They gathered the scattered vegetables from the bridge. The onion was gone, lost to the creek, and one of the carrots was cracked. But everything else was salvageable. Maya's hands were still shaking as she put them back in the bag, and the ranger noticed. First time something like that's happened to you? The ranger asked gently. First time someone actually chased me? Maya said. But not the first time I've been followed, or harassed, or made to feel scared just for existing in public. The ranger nodded grimly. Yeah, it's a hell of a world sometimes. She started walking, and Maya fell into step beside her. I'm Grace, by the way. Grace Martinez. Been working in this park for 12 years. Maya Thompson. She adjusted her green hood, which had fallen back during her run, up over her curls again. 12 years? You must really love it here? I do, Grace said. Even with all its problems. Maybe especially with its problems. Someone has to look after this place, make sure it's safe for people who need it. Parks are important. They're one of the few places left where you don't have to buy anything, don't have to perform for anybody. You can just be. They walked in silence for a minute, following the path as it wound through increasingly dense trees. The light was fading fast now, and Grace pulled out a flashlight from her belt, clicking it on. The beam swept across the path ahead, catching the eyes of some small animal. A raccoon, probably, that quickly scurried away. Can I ask you something? Maya said. Why are you still here? You said the park closes at sunset, but you're still patrolling. Grace was quiet for a moment, flashlight steady on the path. Because I know people cut through here at night. People trying to get home, trying to save bus fare or time. People like you with good reasons. And I know this park isn't as safe as it should be. Budget cuts, staffing shortages. We can't maintain it properly. Can't have rangers here around the clock. But I live just a few blocks from here. And sometimes I come back in the evening, walk the main paths, make sure things are okay. She glanced at Maya. My daughter is about your age. I'd want someone to look out for her if she had to walk through a park alone at night. You're a good person, Maya said softly. Grace shrugged. I'm just doing what should be normal. Looking out for each other? That shouldn't be extraordinary, but I guess it is these days. They walked on. Maya found herself relaxing, despite everything that had happened. There was something deeply reassuring about Grace's presence, about her competence and her clear-eyed view of the world. She reminded Maya a bit of Nana Rose. Actually, that same quality of being unshakably yourself, of knowing what mattered and not wasting time on what didn't. So your grandmother is sick? Grace asked after a while. Yeah, Mrs. Chen, her neighbor, said she has a bad cold. Nana Rose is 84, so I worry about her. That's good that you look after her, Grace said. A lot of elderly folks are isolated these days. The work you're doing, visiting her regularly, that probably means more to her than you know. She raised me, Maya said simply. After my parents died. It's the least I can do. They had reached a place where the path split again. Grace paused, shining her flashlight down each branch. This way, she said, taking the left fork. It's a little longer, but it avoids the densest part of the woods. Safer. As they walked, Grace pointed out features of the park, sharing bits of knowledge like gifts. She showed Maya a massive oak tree that was at least 200 years old, standing from before the city had even been a city. She pointed out a red-tailed hawk's nest high in a dead tree, and told Maya about the family of foxes that denned near the old maintenance shed every spring. She talked about the history of the park, how it had been built by immigrant laborers in the 1930s, how it had once had a carousel and a small zoo, both long gone now. You really do love this place, Maya observed. It's one of the last wild spaces left in the city, Grace said, even if it's a kind of scrappy, forgotten wilderness. Maybe especially because of that. This park doesn't pretend to be something it's not. It's honest. And if you know where to look, it's beautiful. They emerged from the park about 25 minutes after they'd met on the bridge. The transition was abrupt. One moment they were under trees in near darkness. The next they were on a sidewalk under streetlights, with houses lined up along both sides of the street, and the sounds of televisions and dinner conversations drifting through windows. Maple Street is 2 blocks that way, Grace said, pointing. Will you be okay from here? Yes, definitely. Thank you so much, Grace. Seriously. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't shown up. Grace's expression was serious. I do. And I'm glad I was there. Maya. Next time, don't take shortcuts through isolated places after dark. I know you were worried about your grandmother. And I know it seems faster, but it's not worth the risk. Take the bus. Take a rideshare. Ask a friend to go with you. Your safety matters. I know, Maya said. I will. I'll be more careful. Grace reached into her pocket and pulled out a card. Here. This has the number for park security. If you ever need to come through here, and you're worried, you can call that number. Someone should answer. Maya took the card, tucking it into her jacket pocket. Thank you for everything. Grace smiled, and in the glow of the streetlight, her face looked kind and tired and strong. Take care of your grandmother. And take care of yourself. She turned and walked back toward the park entrance, her silhouette quickly swallowed by the darkness beneath the trees. Maya watched her go for a moment, feeling a strange mix of gratitude and sadness. Then she turned toward Maple Street and started walking. Part 4 Grandmother's house. Nana Rose's house was a small bungalow with faded yellow siding and a front porch that sagged slightly on one side. The yard was tidy, though. Nana Rose was too proud to let it get overgrown, even if she had to pay the neighborhood teenager to mow it for her. A single lamp glowed in the front window, and Maya could see the blue flicker of the television through the curtains. She climbed the 3 steps to the porch. Noting that the railing wobbled a bit, she'd have to fix that soon, and knocked on the door before using her key to let herself in. Nana, it's me, Maya. In here, baby. The voice that came from the living room was hoarse and weak. Maya shut the door behind her and quickly took in the scene. The house was warm, almost too warm, the thermostat probably turned up high. There was a staleness to the air, the smell of sickness and tissues and tea that had gone cold in its cup. She could see a pile of used tissues on the coffee table and a blanket draped over the couch. She hung her green jacket on the coat rack by the door and carried her grocery bags into the living room. Nana Rose was in her armchair, the one with the worn blue upholstery that had been in this house for as long as Maya could remember. She was wrapped in her quilted robe, her gray hair wispy around her face, and even from across the room Maya could hear the congestion in her breathing. "Oh, Nana," Maya said, crossing the room quickly and kneeling beside the chair. She pressed the back of her hand to her grandmother's forehead. "You're burning up." "It's just a cold," Nana Rose said, but her voice was rough, and she coughed as if to prove Maya's point. "I told Mrs. Chen not to bother you. You're so busy with work." "I'm never too busy for you," Maya said firmly. "Have you been taking anything for the fever?" "I took some aspirin this morning. Or maybe it was yesterday morning. I can't quite remember." Maya's worry deepened. Confusion wasn't a good sign. "Okay, I brought medicine, and I'm gonna make you some proper food. When's the last time you ate?" Nana Rose waved a hand vaguely. "Oh, I had some crackers. Maybe some toast. I haven't been very hungry." "Well, I'm making chicken soup, and you're going to have some?" Maya said. She softened her tone. "Please, Nana. You need to eat something to fight this off." Nana Rose's eyes, watery with fever, focused on Maya's face. "You're a good girl, Maya. Just like your mama was." Maya felt the familiar tug in her chest. Grief never really went away, just became something you learned to carry. "I learned from the best," she said, squeezing her grandmother's hand. "Let me get you some medicine first, okay?" She went to the kitchen, which was small and dated but meticulously clean, the way Nana Rose had always kept it. Maya filled a glass with water and returned with 2 fever reducer tablets and a cough suppressant. "Take these," she instructed, helping her grandmother sit up straighter. Nana Rose swallowed the pills obediently, grimacing at the taste. "Now, I'm going to make the soup." It'll take about an hour, but it'll be worth it. Real chicken soup, that canned stuff. You don't have to go to all that trouble. Nana Rose protested weakly. It's not trouble. It's love, Maya said, echoing something Nana Rose herself used to say when Maya was young and sick, when her grandmother would make the same soup for her. Maya went to the kitchen and unpacked her groceries. The chicken was intact, thank goodness, despite all the running and dropping. She found Nana Rose's big soup pot and began the familiar ritual of cooking. She started by putting the whole chicken in the pot with water, bringing it to a boil, then reducing it to a simmer. While that cooked, she chopped the vegetables. The carrots, the celery, the onions. The repetitive motion of the knife against the cutting board was soothing after the chaos of the evening. As she worked, her mind kept returning to what had happened in the park. The man's heavy footsteps behind her. The terror of being chased. The relief of Grace's intervention. She thought about what Grace had said. Your safety matters. But Maya had heard that message before. In different forms. Stay safe. Don't walk alone at night. Don't wear headphones so you can hear someone approaching. Carry your keys like a weapon between your fingers. Text someone your location. Share your trip on the rideshare app. All the little calculations women made every day. The constant mental map of safety and danger. Maya was tired of it sometimes, tired of having to always be on guard, always be vigilant. But what choice was there? The world wasn't safe. That was just reality. After the chicken had simmered for 45 minutes, Maya pulled it out, let it cool for a few minutes, then shredded the meat. She added it back to the pot along with the vegetables, fresh ginger, garlic, salt, pepper, and a bay leaf. The kitchen filled with the rich, comforting smell of soup, the smell of home and healing. While the soup finished cooking, Maya tidied up the living room, gathering the used tissues and taking them to the trash, bringing Nana Rose fresh water, adjusting the thermostat to a more reasonable temperature. She checked her phone. It was nearly 9 o'clock now. She texted her roommate. At Nana's. She's really sick. Going to stay the night. Cover for me at work if I'm late tomorrow? The response came back quickly. Of course. Give her my love. She feels better soon. When the soup was ready, Maya ladled a bowl and brought it to her grandmother on a tray, along with crackers and more water. Nana Rose had dozed off in her chair, her breathing congested and rattly, and Maya hated to wake her. She knew she needed to eat. Nana, she said softly, touching her grandmother's shoulder. Time for soup. Nana Rose's eyes fluttered open, confused for a moment before focusing on Maya. Oh, did I fall asleep? Just for a little while? Can you eat something for me? Maya helped her grandmother sit up and positioned the tray on her lap. Nana Rose took a spoonful of soup, her eyes closed in appreciation. Oh, Maya, this is perfect. Just perfect. It's your recipe, Maya said, settling onto the ottoman beside the chair. I learned from you, remember? You always were a quick learner, Nana Rose said. She ate slowly but steadily, managing about half the bowl before her energy flagged. I'm sorry you had to come all this way tonight. I know it's a long trip. It's okay, Maya said, though she thought again of the park, the chase, the fear. I made it here safely. Nana Rose studied her granddaughter's face with the keen perception that age and love provided. Something happened, she said. It wasn't a question. Maya hesitated. She didn't want to worry her grandmother, especially when she was sick. She'd never been good at hiding things from Nana Rose. "I took a shortcut through Riverside Park," she admitted. "A man chased me. Park ranger helped me and I'm fine. Everything's okay." Nana Rose's hand trembled slightly as she set down her spoon. "Oh, baby. I'm okay." "Really? I shouldn't have gone to the park at that time of day. I know better. I just wanted to get to you faster. You can't." Nana Rose's voice caught, and she coughed. When she spoke again, voice was fierce despite its weakness. "You can't take risks like that, Maya. Not for me. I'm an old woman. I've lived my life. You have so much ahead of you." "Don't say that," Maya said, taking her grandmother's hand. "Don't talk like that. You're going to be around for a long time yet, and I will always come when you need me." "Always." They sat in silence for a moment, hands clasped. Then Nana Rose said, "Did I ever tell you about your great-grandmother? About how she came to this country?" Maya had heard the story before. Many times. But she knew her grandmother needed to tell it now, needed to connect this moment to the long chain of women who had come before them. She came from Mexico when she was just 18. Nana Rose began, her voice taking on the rhythm of a story told many times. Crossed the border with nothing but a little bundle of clothes and her mother's rosary. She was all alone, didn't know anyone, didn't speak much English. The men who helped people cross, they weren't all good men, if you understand me. They expected things in return for their help. Maya squeezed her grandmother's hand, understanding the implications, even though the details had never been explicitly stated. "But your great-grandmother was smart and she was brave. One of those men tried to. When he cornered her, she fought. She had a little knife, and she cut his arm, and she ran. She ran all night through the desert, and by morning she'd made it to a town. Found work in a restaurant, washing dishes. Eventually she saved enough to bring her sisters over, and then she met your great-grandfather." "I remember," Maya said softly. "She was tough." "She survived," Nana Rose corrected. "She did what she had to do, and she taught her daughters to be smart, to be careful, also to be brave. To not let fear stop them from living." She looked at Maya intently. "Do you understand what I'm saying?" "I think so." "The world is dangerous. It's always been dangerous, especially for women. If we let that danger make us small, if we let it keep us locked up and afraid, then the dangerous people win. Your great-grandmother didn't run through that desert just so her descendants could be too afraid to live their lives." Nana Rose paused to cough. "Being brave doesn't mean being stupid. You have to be smart too. Promise me you won't take shortcuts through dark parks anymore." "I promise," Maya said. "I learned my lesson." "Good." Nana Rose leaned back in her chair, exhausted from the effort of eating and talking. "Now tell me about work. Tell me something good." So Maya talked, keeping her voice soft and soothing. Telling her grandmother about the elderly clients she'd been helping at the nonprofit, about the new community lunch program they were starting, about the volunteer who'd been teaching technology classes to help seniors video chat with distant family. She talked until she noticed her grandmother's breathing had evened out and deepened, until she realized Nana Rose had fallen asleep again. Gently, Maya removed the tray from her grandmother's lap and carried it to the kitchen. She washed the dishes, cleaned up the kitchen, and then made up the small guest bedroom where she'd stayed so many times as a child. But she didn't go to bed yet. Instead, She returned to the living room, adjusted the blanket over her sleeping grandmother, and settled onto the couch with her phone. She opened social media and scrolled through, seeing the usual mix of posts. Friends sharing their dinners, political arguments, memes. The normalcy of it felt surreal after what she'd experienced. All these people going about their lives, sharing their little moments. She'd been running for her safety just hours ago. On impulse, Maya opened a new post and began to type, PSA. Riverside Park is now to safe after dark. Was chased by a man tonight while trying to take a shortcut. Only escaped because a park ranger intervened. Ladies and everyone really, please be careful. The park closes at sunset for a reason. Trust your instincts. Your safety matters more than saving time. She hesitated before posting, wondering if she was overreacting. If people would judge her for being in the park in the first place. But then she thought about other people, other women, who might make the same decision she had, who might not be as lucky. She hit post. Within minutes, comments began appearing. Other women sharing their own stories of being followed, harassed, chased. Men she knew expressing shock, offering support, a few getting defensive. A few people criticized her for going into the park, but more offered sympathy and shared their own warnings about the area. One comment caught her eye. It was from someone named Jessica. I know exactly where you mean. Same thing happened to me 3 months ago, but no ranger came. I had to jump in the creek and hide under the bridge for an hour until I was sure he was gone. Filed a police report but never heard anything back. I'm so glad you're okay. Maya's heart sank. How many other women had been chased through that park? How many had been hurt? She thought about Grace, doing her unofficial evening patrols, because she knew the park wasn't safe and someone needed to watch out for people. One woman trying to fill a gap that should have been filled by proper funding and staffing and infrastructure. It wasn't enough. It shouldn't have to be this way. Maya spent the next hour reaching out to Jessica and other women who'd commented with similar stories. She created a group chat, sharing information about the incidents, times, descriptions of the men involved. Someone suggested filing a joint complaint with the city parks department. Someone else knew a local journalist who'd been writing about women's safety issues. Slowly, a plan began to form. If the park wasn't safe, they'd make noise until someone in power paid attention. They'd organize. They'd demand better lighting, more patrols, security cameras. They'd turn their individual traumas into collective action. It felt good. It felt powerful. It didn't erase what had happened to Maya that evening. It transformed it into something more than just her personal nightmare. It became data, evidence, fuel for change. Around midnight, exhausted but oddly energized, Maya finally closed her phone and checked on her grandmother one more time. Nana Rose was sleeping more peacefully now, her breathing easier. The fever reducers were working. She'd be okay. Maya kissed her grandmother's forehead softly, then retreated to the guest bedroom. She pulled off her green jacket, hanging it carefully on the back of the door, and climbed into the narrow bed she'd slept in so many times as a child. The sheets smelled like the lavender detergent Nana Rose had always used. As she lay in the darkness, Maya thought about the strange parallel between her day and the old fairy tale Nana Rose used to read to her when she was little. The one about the girl in the red hood. She'd always thought that story was about the dangers of talking to strangers, of straying from the path. But maybe it was about something more. Maybe it was about the journey every woman had to make through a world that wasn't built for her safety, and the importance of the people, the rangers and grandmothers and strangers who became allies, who helped light the way. Part 5. The morning after Maya woke to the smell of coffee and the sound of coughing from the other room. For a moment, disoriented in the dim morning light, she couldn't remember where she was. Then memory flooded back. The chase, the ranger, Nana Rose's illness, and she threw back the covers and hurried to check on her grandmother. She found Nana Rose in the kitchen, standing at the stove in her bathrobe, stirring something in a pot. "Nana! What are you doing up?" "You should be resting." "I'm making oatmeal," Nana Rose said, her voice still hoarse but stronger than last night. "Can't have you running around taking care of me without any breakfast." "I can make breakfast," Maya protested. She was secretly relieved to see her grandmother on her feet, moving around. "How are you feeling?" "Better. Still sick, but better." "That soup helped." "The medicine helped? You helped." Nana Rose turned to look at her granddaughter, and her eyes were clearer today, more focused. "Thank you for coming, baby. Always," Maya said simply. She poured herself a cup of coffee from the pot Nana Rose had made and leaned against the counter. "I called in sick to work. I'm staying with you today to make sure you're really okay." "You don't need to do that." "Yes, I do. Besides, I already called. It's done." Nana Rose shook her head but smiled slightly. "Stubborn. Just like me." They ate breakfast together at the small kitchen table. The morning sun streaming through the window and illuminating the dust motes in the air. The oatmeal was good. Nana Rose had made it with cinnamon and brown sugar the way Maya liked it. They didn't talk much, just sat in comfortable silence, the kind that only comes from decades of knowing someone. After breakfast, Maya insisted her grandmother return to the armchair to rest while she cleaned up. As she washed the dishes, her phone buzzed repeatedly with notifications. The social media post she'd made last night had exploded. Over 300 comments now. Dozens of shares. The group chat with the other women who'd had similar experiences in Riverside Park had grown to 15 members overnight. One message stood out. It was from someone named Alicia Reyes. "I'm a reporter for the City Voice. I saw your post about Riverside Park. Would you be willing to talk to me about your experience? I've been investigating safety issues in city parks, and this could be an important story." Maya stared at the message for a long moment. Going public? Really public? Just social media. Felt like a big step. But Jessica's comment kept echoing in her mind. Filed a police report, but never heard anything back. How many police reports had been filed and forgotten? How many women had suffered in silence because they thought nothing would change? She typed back, "Yes, I'd be willing to talk. Can we set up a time?" The response came within minutes. "How about this afternoon? I can come to you." Maya glanced toward the living room, where Nana Rose was resting. "I'm caring for my grandmother today. Can you come to her address?" She sent the location. "Perfect. I'll be there at 2 p.m. The morning passed quietly. Maya made more soup, did some laundry, helped Nana Rose take a bath, and changed the sheets on her bed. By noon, Nana Rose's fever had broken completely. She was still congested and tired. The worst seemed to have passed. "You're gonna be okay," Maya said, feeling the tight knot of worry in her chest finally begin to loosen. "Of course I am," Nana Rose replied. I'm too mean to die. At 2 o'clock, there was a knock on the door. Maya opened it to find a woman in her 30s, with dark hair pulled into a ponytail, wearing jeans and a leather jacket. She carried a shoulder bag that bulged with what was probably recording equipment and notebooks. Maya, Alicia Reyes? She extended her hand. Come in, Maya said, shaking her hand. My grandmother is resting, so we should keep our voices down. They settled at the kitchen table, and Alicia pulled out a digital recorder and a notebook. First, thank you for being willing to talk to me. I know this can't be easy. Before we start, I need to ask, are you comfortable with me using your real name in the article, or would you prefer to remain anonymous? Maya thought about it. Part of her wanted to hide, to not expose herself to potential judgment or backlash. But she thought about her great-grandmother, running through the desert with nothing but courage and a knife. She thought about all the women in that group chat, sharing their stories in the darkness. You can use my name, she said. What happened to me isn't shameful. I didn't do anything wrong. Alicia smiled. That's exactly right. Okay, tell me what happened. So Maya told the story again from the beginning. The text from Mrs. Chen, the decision to take the shortcut, the growing awareness of footsteps behind her, the chase across the bridge. She described the man in detail. His build, his heavy jacket, the beard, the way he'd moved. She talked about Grace, the ranger who'd saved her, and how Grace had mentioned she patrolled unofficially because she knew the park wasn't safe. Alicia listened intently, occasionally asking clarifying questions, her pen moving rapidly across her notebook, even though the recorder was running. And this wasn't the first time you felt unsafe in public? Alicia asked. No, Maya said. It was the first time someone actually chased me. I've been followed before, harassed on the subway, catcalled on the street. Most women I know have similar experiences. It's just part of being a woman in the city. It shouldn't be, Alicia said firmly. That's why this story matters. Ask, have you filed a police report? Maya shook her head. Not yet. I didn't even think about it last night. I was just focused on getting to my grandmother. And honestly, I don't know if it would do any good. The man didn't actually hurt me. He didn't even touch me. Would the police even take it seriously? They should, Alicia said. What you experienced was assault. You don't have to be physically harmed for it to be a crime. Pursuit with intent to harm or intimidate is enough. I'd encourage you to file a report, even if you're skeptical. It creates a record. And if this man has done this to other women, it starts to build a pattern. Maya nodded slowly. The woman in the group chat. Jessica. She said she filed a report but never heard back. That's not uncommon, unfortunately, Alicia said. But it doesn't mean the report was useless. And if enough reports are filed about the same area, it can force the city to take action. She paused. Speaking of which, you mentioned other women with similar experiences. How many? At least 15 in the group chat. Probably more who haven't spoken up. Alicia's expression was grim. This is bigger than one incident, then. This is a pattern of predatory behavior in an area that the city has neglected. That's a real story. She leaned forward. Maya, would you be willing to connect me with some of the other women? Would you be willing to go on record calling for changes to park safety? Yes? Maya said without hesitation. To both. Something needs to change. They talked for another hour, with Alicia asking detailed questions about the park's condition, the lighting, the lack of security, the unofficial closure time that no one seemed to enforce or even publicize. Maya mentioned Grace's comment about budget cuts and staffing shortages, and Alicia made a note to try to interview the park ranger as well. As Alicia was packing up her equipment, Nana Rose appeared in the kitchen doorway, wrapped in her blanket. "I heard voices," she said. "Is everything all right?" "Everything's fine, Nana. This is Alicia Reyes. She's a reporter." "We were talking about what happened last night?" Nana Rose studied Alicia with sharp eyes. "You're writing a story about my granddaughter?" "About her experience in Riverside Park, yes, ma'am. And about the larger safety issues affecting women in the city." Nana Rose nodded slowly. "Good. It's about time someone paid attention. Maya is smart and strong. She shouldn't have to be afraid just trying to take care of her old grandmother." "I completely agree," Alicia said. After Alicia left, Maya helped Nana Rose back to her chair and made her a fresh cup of tea with honey. "Are you sure you want to be in the newspaper?" Nana Rose asked. "Once it's out there, you can't take it back?" "I'm sure," Maya said. "If I don't speak up, nothing changes. And I have you to thank for that lesson." "Me? You told me about grandmother last night, about how she fought and ran and survived, about how she didn't let fear make her small. I'm not being small about this, Nana. I'm not gonna pretend it didn't happen, or that it's just one of those things women have to accept." Nana Rose's eyes grew watery, and Maya wasn't sure if it was emotion or illness. "You're great. Grandmother would be proud of you." "I'm proud of you." They spent the rest of the afternoon quietly, made dinner, reheated soup with fresh bread, and they watched game shows on TV. Around 7, Maya's phone rang. It was Grace, the park ranger. "Maya, I hope you don't mind. I got your number from the contact card I gave you. A reporter called me today, asking about the incident last night. I wanted to make sure you were okay with me talking to her." "Completely okay," Maya said. "I gave her your name. I hope that's all right?" "It's fine. I'm glad you're speaking out. The Parks Department needs to hear that people care about this." Grace paused. "I also wanted to tell you. I filed an official incident report this morning. I included the description of the man who chased you. If he's been involved in other incidents, maybe we can start to build a case." "Thank you, Grace. That means a lot. It's my job, it should be." Grace sighed. "Listen, I talked to my supervisor today, told him what happened. He's putting in a request for increased patrols and better lighting in that section of the park. It might not happen quickly. Bureaucracy moves slowly, but it's a start." "That's great news. It wouldn't be happening without you speaking up," Grace said. "You did a brave thing, Maya. A lot of people would have just tried to forget about it and move on." After they hung up, Maya felt a strange sense of calm settle over her. She'd been chased, terrified, traumatized. But she'd also survived, and now she was doing something about it. She wasn't powerless. She thought about fairy tales again, the stories Nana Rose had read to her as a child. In those stories, the girl was always rescued by someone else. A woodsman, a prince. But real life wasn't like that. Real life was more complicated. Grace had helped her, yes, but Maya had also helped herself. She'd run. She'd survived. And now she was fighting back in a different way, with her voice and her story. Maybe that was the real lesson of those old tales. Not to avoid the woods, but to learn how to navigate them. To be smart and brave and careful all at once. To help each other. To not accept that the world had to be dangerous, but to work to make it safer. Part 6, The Ripple Effect. The article came out 5 days later. Alicia had worked fast, interviewing not just Maya and Grace, but also several other women who'd had frightening experiences in Riverside Park. A city council member who oversaw parks and recreation, and a criminologist who specialized in predatory behavior in public spaces. The headline read, "The dangerous shortcut: how budget cuts and neglect have made Riverside Park a hunting ground." It was powerful. Alicia had woven together the individual stories into a larger narrative about how cities failed women. How austerity politics translated to physical danger. How public spaces became unsafe when they were abandoned and underfunded. She'd included statistics about assault rates in the park, information about the declining budget for park maintenance and security, and quotes from city officials who seemed surprised that there was a problem. The article included Maya's full name and her photo. She'd agreed to that, wanting to put a face to the story. It also included photos of the park, showing the broken lights, the overgrown paths, the general state of neglect. The response was immediate and overwhelming. By the afternoon it was published, Maya's phone was buzzing constantly. Friends texting their support. Strangers sending messages thanking her for speaking out. A few nasty comments too. People saying she should have known better than to go into the park, that she was making a big deal out of nothing. She was probably exaggerating for attention. Maya deleted those without responding. The positive messages far outnumbered the negative ones. And more importantly, the article was being shared widely. It hit local social media groups, parenting forums, community organizing pages. People who had never thought much about park safety were suddenly talking about it. 3 days after the article published, the city council announced an emergency budget allocation for Riverside Park. 500 zellazand for immediate safety improvements, including new lighting, security cameras, and increased ranger patrols. It wasn't nearly enough to fix all the park's problems, but it was a start. A week later, Maya received an email from a woman named Dr. Patricia Okonkwo, who ran a nonprofit focused on urban safety and women's issues. She wanted to know if Maya would be interested in joining an advisory board they were forming to address safety in public spaces. The board would work directly with city planners and law enforcement to develop better policies and practices. Maya said yes. She also said yes when a local community college asked her to speak to a women's studies class about her experience, and when a podcast about urban life requested an interview, and when the group chat of women from Riverside Park decided to organize a Reclaim the Park event, a group walk through the park at sunset, showing that they wouldn't be driven away from public spaces by fear. Not all of it was easy. Some people recognized Maya on the street now. While most were supportive, a few were judgmental or skeptical. She got hate mail. She had nightmares sometimes about being chased, waking up in a cold sweat with her heart pounding. She started seeing a therapist to process the trauma. But she also felt a sense of purpose she'd never quite had before. Her job at the nonprofit, helping elderly people, was still important to her. But this work, advocating for women's safety, pushing for systemic change, felt urgent and vital. 2 months after the incident, Maya was invited to speak at a city council meeting about proposed changes to park safety policies. She wore her green jacket. It had become a kind of symbol for her, a reminder of that night and everything that had come after. Standing at the podium in the council chambers, looking out at the assembled officials and citizens and reporters, Maya felt nervous but determined. "My name is Maya Thompson," she began. "2 months ago, I was chased through Riverside Park by a man who intended to harm me. I survived because a park ranger named Grace Martinez happened to be there. Because she'd made the choice to patrol an area that should have been safe but wasn't." She paused, gathering her thoughts. "I'm not here to tell you about what happened to me. You've read that story. I'm here to tell you about what needs to happen next. We need to fund our parks properly. We need trained rangers and security personnel. We need lighting and cameras and emergency call boxes. We need to design public spaces with women's safety in mind from the beginning, not as an afterthought." She looked directly at the council members. "But more than that, we need to change the narrative. We need to stop telling women to avoid public spaces after dark and start asking why those spaces aren't safe. We need to stop treating women's fear as a natural state of being and start treating it as a policy failure that demands action. I'm not asking you to do this just for me or for the other women who've been harmed in our parks. I'm asking you to do this for all of us, for every person who deserves to move through their city without fear, for every child who should be able to play outside, for every elderly person who needs their grandchildren to be able to visit them safely. Do better. We deserve better. Our city deserves better." When she finished, there was applause. Not just polite, scattered applause, but real, sustained clapping from many of the people in the audience. Several council members were nodding. One of them, Councilwoman Davis, leaned into her microphone. "Mems Thompson, thank you for your testimony and for your courage in speaking out. I can tell you that several of us on the council have been working on a comprehensive parks safety bill, and your input, along with the input of many other advocates, has been invaluable. We'll be voting on that bill next month." After the meeting, as Maya was gathering her things, Grace approached her. They'd stayed in touch since that night, texting occasionally, and Grace had been at the Reclaim the Park event, walking alongside the group of women. "You did good up there?" Grace said. "I was terrified," Maya admitted. "Being brave doesn't mean not being scared. It means being scared and doing it anyway." Grace smiled. "You know, the department approved hiring 2 additional rangers for Riverside Park. I got to interview the candidates. Both women, both smart and committed. Things are changing. Because people spoke up," Maya said. "Because you spoke up first. You started the conversation." They walked out of the building together, emerging into a spring evening. The days were getting longer now. Trees were budding on the streets, flowers blooming in window boxes. "How's your grandmother?" Grace asked. "She's good. She's really proud of me, which means everything." Maya smiled. "She keeps telling everyone that her granddaughter is making a difference. I think she's told every person at her church and half the neighborhood." "You should be proud too," Grace said. "You turned something terrible into something meaningful." "That's not nothing." They said goodbye at the corner. Grace heading toward the subway station, and Maya waiting for her rideshare. These days, Maya was more careful about how she traveled, especially at night. She'd learned that taking precautions wasn't the same as living in fear. It was just being smart. The car arrived, and Maya slid into the back seat, giving the driver Nana Rose's address. She was having dinner with her grandmother tonight. She did every Thursday now. Sometimes Mrs. Chen joined them, and a few of Nana Rose's other elderly neighbors. They'd turned it into a regular thing, a little community gathering. As the car drove through the city, Maya looked out the window at the people on the sidewalks, the lighted windows of apartments, the small parks and playgrounds scattered throughout the neighborhoods. She thought about all the invisible infrastructure that made a city livable, not just roads and electricity and water. Safety and connection and care. She thought about the chain of help that had saved her that night, Grace, who had chosen to patrol the park out of a sense of responsibility. Mrs. Chen, who had texted her about Nana Rose being sick. Nana Rose herself, who had raised her to be brave and kind. Her great-grandmother, who had fled through the desert carrying nothing but hope and determination. All the women who had come before, all the women who would come after. They were all connected, links in a chain stretching backward and forward through time. Epilogue 1 year later. It was autumn again, and Maya stood at the entrance to Riverside Park. The stone pillars looked the same, but everything else had changed. New lights had been installed along the main paths. Bright, solar-powered fixtures that turned on automatically at dusk. Security cameras were mounted at regular intervals. A new ranger station had been built near the entrance, and there were rangers on duty until 10 o'clock every night now. The park had been renovated, not completely but enough to make a difference. The trails had been cleared and repaved. The old bridge where Maya had dropped her groceries had been rebuilt. New signs were posted everywhere with maps, emergency contact numbers, and information about park hours and safety. Maya wasn't alone. Grace was with her, along with Dr. Okonkwo, several other women from the advocacy group they'd formed, and a reporter who was doing a follow-up story on the changes to the park. But the biggest group was the one trailing behind them. 30 children from the local elementary school, accompanied by their teachers. This was the inaugural event of a new program Maya had helped create. Take Back Our Parks, which organized group activities and educational programs to help families feel safe using public spaces again. All right, everyone? Maya called out, turning to address the group. She was wearing her green jacket. She always wore it for events like this. It had become part of her identity now, a symbol that had meaning beyond just being a piece of clothing. We're going to walk the main trail together, and Ranger Martinez is going to teach us about the plants and animals that live in the park. Everyone stay together, and if you need anything, just raise your hand. The children were excited, chattering and pointing at things as they walked. Grace led the way, stopping periodically to show them interesting plants or animal tracks, explaining how the park ecosystem worked, how even in the middle of a city, nature found a way to thrive. Maya walked near the back of the group, watching. She thought about how this trail had been the site of the worst night of her life, and how it was now becoming something else. A place of learning and community and reclaimed safety. One of the teachers, Miss Rodriguez, fell into step beside her. "This is wonderful," she said. "Some of these kids have never been in a park before. Their parents were too worried about safety." "I understand that worry," Maya said. But parks belong to everyone. They should be safe for everyone. When they reached the rebuilt bridge, Maya paused. She could still remember the terror of that night, the sound of footsteps behind her, the moment of stumbling. But the memory no longer had the power to paralyze her. It was part of her story, but it wasn't the whole story. Ms. Maya? One of the children, a little girl with pigtails, had noticed her stopping. Are you okay? Maya smiled. I'm perfect. Just remembering something? Come on, let's catch up with the others. Later, after the walk was finished and the children had been picked up by their parents, the advocacy group gathered at a nearby cafe. They'd become friends over the year, bonded by shared purpose and trauma transformed into action. We got the grant, Dr. Okonkwo announced, pulling out her phone to show them the email. The foundation approved our proposal. We're going to be able to expand the program to 3 more parks next year. There were cheers around the table. Grace raised her coffee cup in a toast to persistence, to community, to not accepting that the world has to be the way it's always been. To Maya, someone else added, for starting all this? Maya felt herself blushing. I didn't start it alone. None of this happens without all of you. But you were the spark, Grace insisted. You could have stayed quiet, tried to forget what happened. You didn't. You spoke up, and that made space for others to speak up too. As they sat together, talking and laughing and planning their next steps, Maya's phone buzzed. It was a text from Nana Rose. Did the park walk go well? Come tell me about it. Made your favorite tamales? Maya smiled and texted back, on my way. She said goodbye to the group and headed out, pulling her green hood up against the autumn wind. The subway station was 3 blocks away. She could have taken a rideshare. But it was only 6 o'clock and still light out, and Maya had made a conscious choice not to let fear dictate her every movement. She was careful. Alert, yes, but not afraid. There was a difference. On the subway, she found a seat and pulled out her phone, scrolling through her messages. There was one from Alicia, the reporter, asking if she'd be interested in being interviewed for a documentary about women's safety in cities. There was an invitation to speak at a conference on urban planning. There was a thank you note from one of the mothers whose child had been on the park walk today. All of it still felt slightly surreal. A year ago, Maya had been just another person trying to get through life, working her job, visiting her grandmother, wearing her green jacket without thinking about what it might come to symbolize. Now she was an advocate, an organizer, someone whose name was recognized, whose voice mattered in conversations about city policy. She hadn't asked for any of it. But she'd chosen what to do with it when it happened, and that choice had made all the difference. The subway delivered her to her stop, and she climbed the stairs to street level. Nana Rose's neighborhood looked the same as always: modest houses, tidy yards, porch lights beginning to flicker on as the sun set. But Maya saw it differently now. She saw the streetlights that needed to be brighter, the empty lot that could be a community garden, the bus stop that needed a shelter for people waiting in the rain. She saw not just what was, but what could be. And she knew now that she had some power to help shape that future. Nana Rose was waiting at the door when Maya arrived, healthier now than she'd been that terrible night a year ago. My beautiful activist granddaughter, Nana Rose said, pulling her into a hug. Come in, come in. Tell me everything. Over tamales and rice and beans, Maya told her about the children's faces when they saw a deer in the park, about Grace's knowledge of wildlife, about the grant that would expand their program. Nana Rose listened with pride shining in her eyes. "Your great-grandmother," she said when Maya finished. "The one who ran through the desert with nothing but courage. I think she would recognize herself in you. Not because you went through something terrible, but because of what you did with it afterward. You didn't let it make you small. I learned that from you," Maya said. "You always taught me to stand up, to speak out, to take up space." "Well," Nana Rose said with a smile, "then I did something right in raising you." They ate in comfortable silence for a while. And then Nana Rose said, "I've been thinking about your green jacket, how it's become this symbol." "Yeah, in the old stories, the ones I used to read you, the colored hood was just decoration, something to make the girl identifiable. But your green hood, it's different. It's become something powerful. A reminder that women can be visible and take up space and move through the world, even when the world tries to make them invisible or afraid." Maya looked down at her jacket, draped over the back of her chair. The green had faded even more over the year, worn at the edges, but she still loved it. Maybe loved it more now, actually, because of everything it had come to mean. "I like that," she said. "Turning something that was supposed to make me a target into something that makes me strong." "That's what we do," Nana Rose said. "We take what the world gives us, even the bad things, and we transform it into something we can use. That's survival. That's power." Later that night, as Maya rode the subway home to her apartment, she thought about stories again. About how they're passed down and transformed, how each generation retells them in ways that matter for their own time. The girl in the red hood had been a cautionary tale. Stay on the path, don't talk to strangers, wait for someone to save you. Maya's story, the girl in the green hood, was different. It was about making your own path when the official one wasn't safe. About finding allies and becoming one yourself. About refusing to accept danger as inevitable. Speaking up and organizing and demanding better. It was about survival, yes, but also about transformation. About turning trauma into action. Fear into fuel, isolation into community. As the train rattled through the tunnels beneath the city, Maya looked at her reflection in the dark window. She saw herself, strong and whole, still healing, but no longer broken. She saw her green hood and thought about all the journeys she'd made and all the ones still to come. The world was still dangerous. It probably always would be. But it was also full of people like Grace and Dr. Okonkwo, and the women in her advocacy group, and Nana Rose and Mrs. Chen and all the others who chose, every day, to look out for each other, to demand better, to refuse to accept that things had to be the way they'd always been. And that, Maya thought, was its own kind of magic. Not the fairy tale kind. Something better and more real. The magic of ordinary people deciding to take care of each other. The magic of communities forming around shared values. The magic of speaking truth to power and not backing down. The train pulled into her station. Maya stood, adjusted her green jacket, and stepped out onto the platform. She climbed the stairs to street level, emerging into the cool autumn night. Above her, stars were barely visible through the city's light pollution. But they were there if you knew where to look. Maya walked home through streets that were imperfect, and sometimes dangerous, but also full of life and possibility. She walked with her head up, her steps confident, her green hood pulled close against the wind. She walked like someone who had been through the woods and come out the other side. She walked like someone who knew the path wasn't always clear, who had learned to make her own way. She walked like someone who understood that the real end of any story is just the beginning of the next one. And she kept walking. The end